Hi there, welcome back to my channel. This is the Scrapbooking Photographer. Linda's my name, and today we're looking at the Botanical Gardens Stamp of the Month. So I'm going to use that along with some of our water-based inks and also some Distress Oxide inks. It's a bit of an experimentation day and to see what we come up with. So the first thing I'm going to do is use our water-based inks and squeezing a little bit of water onto the lid of the ink pad and mixing it in with the water brush to put the different colours onto watercolour distress cardstock. So I'm using Periwinkle, Sundance and Nectarine to effectively make a bit of a sunset scene behind what's going to be the stamp from the Botanical Shadows set. So I'm interested to see the way that the different mediums react. So the second one I'm putting together is with the watercolour pencils. So again, using blue, yellow, orange and a little bit of red at the top. I'm colouring onto the Distress watercolour cardstock. And then I'll use my water brush to blend everything together. And it's interesting to see how effective this is on the watercolour cardstock. So I really like that effect. It's quite a vibrant mix of colours. And I'll just clean that brush before I do the blue so that there isn't any transfer of colour from the top to the bottom. So as I finish these, I'm putting them up to dry. And the third one that I'm doing here is using the Distress Oxides. So I've got sponges because I don't have, I don't have enough blending brushes to use them all with. So this is using the Peacock Feathers, Kitsch Flamingo and the Mustard Seed. And the pink colour with the yellow makes a kind of an orangey shade, and it blends quite nicely. So I've got those three things up to dry, and now I'm just going to work with the branches that are in the Botanical Shadow set and stamp off a few little squares to use in some different projects. The first one, I'm using the oval shape from the Cosette thin cut set and just going around the outside of that with the blending brushes. Then I'm putting a couple of pieces of black cardstock through the embossing machine with an embossing folder. Because it's white core, some of it is cracked, so I'm just rubbing over it and around the outside with the black ink on a blending brush. And of course, if I'd used a black core cardstock, that wouldn't be an issue. So just adding the sentiments here and popping them up on some foam tape. And I like the way the black embossing at the back offsets the white. So again, that silhouette type look. And using the words that are on the set as well to make the sentiments, we've got thanks so much and grateful for you. So again, just popping this up on some foam tape and then putting it onto the white cardstock. So I've then made a half a size of a slimline. So cutting a slimline card in half, and I've added the third one on there with a little bit of silver trim and some bling. And the final ones with the embossing here with the, I really like the way the black comes through with the embossing in the background. The sentiment on this one actually covered a smudge that I had accidentally put on the oval. And then this third one, using the tree branches coming into the middle with a little bit of red to make it pop. So I'm quite happy with those 4 cards as silhouettes using this Botanical Shadows set. So we can now go back to the watercolours, and using archival black ink, I've stamped with the reed stamp and put that onto the top of the watercolour paper. But when I try and transfer it onto the acetate and then move it around, you'll see where I come into some problems. It doesn't transfer as well as I would like. So I'll clean it up and try on the next one. So everything needs to be cleaned in between doing these, and putting it on the acetate gives you the option of turning it around and printing it the same direction so it does make a reflection. But as you can see, I'm just going to do it twice on this piece, and the watercolour paper appears to be quite thick and doesn't allow us to transfer quite so well. So the next thing I'm going to do is try and do the same thing but stamp it onto plain white daisy cardstock, and that seems to work a lot better. So what I'm going to do is do two like that, and then come back to them when they're dry. So I'm just going to put another back here together with some Distress Oxide, and this is on the white daisy cardstock, just to see if it works better than on the watercolour Distress cardstock. So I'm using the same colour combination because these are the only Distress inks I have, and I'm also going to just spritz that with some water and let that blend in a little bit. So in the meantime, while that's drying, I'm going to come back and use the Distress Oxide inks to colour up this pre-stamped card. And it's interesting to note that as I do this, the Distress inks are by nature more opaque than our water paste inks. So it actually makes the silhouette colour of black go a little bit chalky. So I'll do another one just to show you the difference here. This is being used with the blending brushes and our water-based inks. And as I'm colouring this one in, I can see that the water-based inks are more see-through. And so what I'm colouring in is actually not affecting the black that I've stamped with the archival black. In effect, this one is probably the first one that, as I'm putting it together, it's actually looking like it might be worth keeping. So then I come back and do the same process, and this is going on to the watercolour cardstock, where the background was done with the water-based inks and the water brush. So you can see that the watercolour cardstock is slightly textured and a little bit thicker than our normal white daisy, and so it hasn't blended very well at all putting the black ink on top. So I think I'll cut the bottom off that one and I'll use that in a different project. So then we'll come back to the one that we just did with the distressed oxides, and we spritzed it a little bit, and we've stamped quite successfully on the top. So we'll just try the bottom. Now this is with the normal white daisy cardstock, just transferring it over, and I'm hoping it's going to work a little better on this plain cardstock, and it's okay. You can see the difference between this one and the one that went a bit chalky. So that's going in the bin, that chalky one, and this other one is dark and it looks quite good. So these are the final products. This was the watercolour cardstock where the transfer was okay. This is the other one where it was on plain cardstock with the Distress Oxide inks. And the others, I cut the reflections off because I wasn't very happy with them. And this is the blending brush on white daisy. And this was the colouring pencils with the water brush on the watercolour paints. So these other sentiments that you see here are coming from the Always Near pack, which is in the current catalogue, the seasonal catalogue. This one I cut down to fit a half a slimline size, which makes for a really nice little gift card to go with a bunch of flowers or something. So here are the final products. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learnt something from this. I certainly did doing the process. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks very much for watching.